I was standing at the bottom of the stairs, listening to my wife whisper to my brother through our baby monitor. They thought I was downstairs working. That's the moment I realized my marriage wasn't falling apart. It had already been replaced. My name is Callum Mercer. I'm 39 years old. I work as a regional sales manager for a medical supply company in Ohio. I'm the kind of guy who shows up early, keeps spreadsheets color-coded, and believes if you take care of your family takes care of you. I grew up believing that loyalty was everything. I've been married to my wife, Emily, for 8 years. We have a 3-year-old son, Caleb. Before all this, I would have told you I had a steady life. Not flashy, not dramatic, just solid. I was wrong. The night everything started, I wasn't even suspicious. It was a Thursday, cold outside. Emily had gone upstairs early because Caleb was fighting sleep again. I stayed downstairs finishing up some quarterly reports on my laptop. We had one of those baby monitors with the camera and audio feed that connects to your phone. Nothing fancy, just enough so we could check on him without going up every 10 minutes. Around 10:40 p.m., I opened the app to check if Caleb had finally knocked out. The room was dark except for the soft nightlight shaped like a moon. I could see him in his crib, blanket half kicked off. And then I heard it. A whisper. Not Caleb. Emily. At first, I smiled. I figured she was soothing him. But her voice wasn't soft in that mom way. It was different. Lower. Intimate. I turned the volume up. "Shoo," she said. "He's asleep." There was a pause. Then a man's voice. Quiet. Familiar. My younger brother, Ryan. My stomach tightened. It couldn't be. It wasn't loud enough to make out clearly, but I recognized the tone. The rhythm of how he spoke. Ryan had been over earlier that evening. He dropped by sometimes after work. He and Emily always got along well. I liked that. It made family dinners easier. But I distinctly remembered him leaving around 9 p.m. I watched the monitor screen, waiting for someone to step into frame. The camera only showed Caleb's crib and part of the doorway. The rest of the room was out of view. Then I heard a quiet laugh. Emily's. Followed by, "You can't stay long." My chest felt like it was caving in. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and hit the wall. No. I stared at my phone like if I focused hard enough the image would widen and show me the truth. Or show me I was crazy. Ryan's voice again, barely above a whisper. "He won't come up." Emily replied. "He's busy with work." I didn't think. I just moved. I walked to the bottom of the stairs, phone still in my hand, monitor audio feeding directly into my ear. Every step up felt like I was walking towards something irreversible. Halfway up, the audio crackled slightly. A soft sound. A kiss. I stopped breathing. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I just stood there on the staircase, listening to my wife and my brother in my son's bedroom. In my house. When I finally reached the top, I didn't go straight to Caleb's room. I walked into our bedroom first. Empty. Bed unmade. Bathroom light off. Then I stepped into Caleb's room. Emily was standing near the rocking chair. Ryan was close. Too close. They both looked up at the same time. For a second, none of us spoke. The baby monitor was still playing in my hand. Emily's voice echoed faintly from it with a slight delay. Her face drained of color. Ryan stepped back like he'd just touched something hot. "Callan," she started. I held up my phone. "Don't." That was all I said. Caleb shifted in his crib, but didn't wake. Ryan swallowed. "It's not." I looked at him, and he stopped. Because whatever excuse he was about to give didn't match what I'd heard. "What are you doing here?" I asked him. It came out calm. Too calm. He glanced at Emily before answering. That glance told me everything. "I forgot something in the garage," he said weakly. "At 10:40 at night?" Silence. Emily tried again. "We were just talking." "In the dark?" I asked. She didn't respond. I stepped fully into the room and closed the door gently behind me. Caleb made a small noise, and we all froze. I lowered my voice. "You said he won't come up." Emily's eyes widened. Ryan's jaw tightened. "You heard that?" she whispered. "Yes." That one word shifted the air in the room. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Man, this isn't what you think." I almost laughed. "That's interesting," I said, "because I think it's exactly what I think." Emily's composure cracked first. "It just happened," she said quickly. "It's not like we planned. Just happened." I repeated, "What just happened?" She looked at Ryan again. He avoided my eyes now. I felt something strange settle over me. Not rage. Not yet. Clarity. "How long?" I asked. Neither answered. "How long?" I repeated, louder. "Callan." Emily said softly, like she was talking to a patient in a hospital bed. We didn't mean for this. That wasn't an answer. Ryan finally spoke. A few months. The words landed heavier than any punch. A few months, I echoed. My mind replayed holidays. Family barbecues. Ryan holding Caleb. Emily laughing in the kitchen while I grilled outside. A few months. In my house. Under my nose. Does Mom know? I asked Ryan. He looked startled. What? No. So you're just stupid enough to betray me, I said, but not stupid enough to tell her. Don't talk to me like that, he snapped quietly. I stepped closer. You're in my son's bedroom with my wife. He didn't respond. Emily's voice trembled. We were going to tell you. When? I asked. After what? After you decided who she was choosing. Silence again. That was the answer. I looked at Emily. Really looked at her. This was the woman I built a life with. The woman I defended when my mom said she was too independent. The woman who held my hand in the delivery room. Now she couldn't even meet my eyes. Do you love him? I asked her. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Emily hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any confession. I don't know, she said finally. I nodded slowly. Okay. Ryan frowned. Okay, that's it. I turned to him. Get out of my house. He didn't argue this time. He walked past me, brushing my shoulder on the way out. Emily flinched when the front door closed downstairs. We stood there in the dim light, the sound of Caleb's soft breathing between us. You were going to keep this from me, I said quietly. I was confused, she whispered. For months. Tears slid down her face. I didn't want to hurt you. I felt something finally crack inside me. You already did. Caleb stirred again, and she instinctively moved toward the crib. I stepped back. I'm sleeping downstairs tonight, I said. Tomorrow, we're figuring this out. Callan. Not now. I walked out of the room before my voice could break. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch until the sun came up, staring at the blank TV screen. Around 6:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. We need to talk like adults. I stared at it for a long time. Like adults. I thought about how adult it felt listening to my wife kiss my brother over a baby monitor. Upstairs, I heard Emily moving around, starting the day like nothing had happened. The normal sounds of a normal morning. But nothing was normal anymore. And as I sat there in the quiet, watching the light shift across the living room floor, I realized something that scared me more than the betrayal. I wasn't sure which one of them I hated more, and I wasn't sure what that meant for what I was about to do next. I didn't answer Ryan's text. I left it sitting there on my screen like something dead I didn't want to touch. Upstairs, I could hear cabinets opening. The coffee maker starting. Normal morning sounds. The kind we'd repeated for years without thinking. Routine is a strange thing. It keeps moving even when your life splits in half. Emily came downstairs around 7 o'clock. She was already dressed. Hair pulled back. Face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Callan, she said quietly. I was still on the couch. Same position. Same blank TV. Caleb started crying upstairs. She hesitated, like she didn't know which direction to go first. Get him, I said. She nodded and went back up. I stood, finally. My body felt stiff. Heavy. Like I'd aged 10 years overnight. When she came back down with Caleb on her hip, she looked smaller somehow. He smiled when he saw me. That almost broke me. I took him from her without speaking. He rested his head against my shoulder, warm and unaware. Emily watched us like she was studying something she might lose. We need to talk, she said again. Not in front of him. She nodded. I fed Caleb breakfast. Oatmeal and bananas. The same as always. My hands moved on autopilot. Ryan texted again. You're not answering. This is childish. I almost admired the nerve. When Caleb was settled with his toys in the living room, I walked into the kitchen. Emily was standing by the sink, staring out the window. How long? I asked again. She closed her eyes. Since June. June. 5 months. Where? I asked. At first at his place. At first, I repeated. She didn't answer. I laughed under my breath. You brought him here. She wiped her face quickly. Not like that. Last night was just. Don't minimize it. Her jaw tightened slightly. I noticed that. A flash of defensiveness. I'm not minimizing it, she said. I'm explaining. No, I said. You're trying to manage it. She stared at me. That's what you do. You manage things. You decide when I get information. That's not fair, isn't it? She crossed her arms. A wall going up. You're acting like I planned this to hurt you. I stepped closer. Did you think about me at all? Silence. That's what I thought. She shook her head. You've been distant for years. There it was. The shift. Now I was part of the problem. I work, I said calmly, to pay for this house. For him. I know that, she snapped quietly. But you're always working. Always on your laptop. Even when you're home. So that justifies sleeping with my brother? I didn't say that. Caleb started babbling in the other room. We both lowered our voices again. Emily's eyes softened for a second. Ryan listened. I stared at her. He listened, she repeated. When I said I felt alone, I let that sit in the air. So instead of telling your husband, I said slowly, you told my brother. It just started as talking. I nodded once. And then, she looked down. Then it didn't. There's something about hearing your wife say it like that. Casual. Clean. No drama. Just facts. Are you in love with him? I asked again. I care about him, she said. That wasn't the same answer as before. And me? She looked up at me. I don't know anymore. That hurt more than I expected. Not because she chose him, but because she wasn't even sure if she'd chosen yet. Caleb dropped a toy and started crying. I walked into the living room and picked him up. Emily followed. We looked like a family. That was the cruel part. Later that morning, Ryan showed up. He didn't knock. He walked straight in like he always had. I was standing by the kitchen island when he stepped inside. Emily stiffened. You shouldn't be here, I said. We need to talk, he replied. I'm not talking to you. He glanced at Caleb on the floor. Not in front of him. You didn't seem concerned about that last night. His face darkened. Don't start. I walked toward him slowly. You don't get to tell me what to do in my house. He exhaled sharply. Look, I didn't plan for this either. That's the second time I've heard that line. Emily stepped between us. Stop. Both of you. I looked at her. You don't get to referee this. Ryan shoved his hands in his pockets. We didn't mean for you to find out like that. That sentence told me everything. Not we shouldn't have done it. Not I'm sorry. Just poor timing. So what was the plan? I asked. You move her into your place? I co-parent with you. Ryan's jaw tightened. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything. I'm trying to understand how stupid you think I am. He stepped closer. I didn't steal anything from you. That was the moment. The moment my control almost snapped. You think she's an object? I asked quietly. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Emily put a hand on my chest. Callan. I moved her hand away gently. You don't get to comfort me right now. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Look, we care about each other. It happened. You can't undo that. You're right, I said. He looked almost relieved. But you can leave. Silence. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Emily inhaled sharply. Ryan's face shifted. That's extreme. I looked at him. You slept with my wife. He didn't respond. I turned to Emily. I'll be speaking to a lawyer tomorrow. She blinked like I'd slapped her. You're not even going to try? She asked. Try what? I asked. Marriage counseling with my brother in the waiting room. Her eyes filled with tears again. This doesn't have to destroy everything. It already did. Ryan stepped forward. We can figure out a way to handle this without blowing up the family. I stared at him. You're worried about family? He swallowed but held his ground. We can keep it private, he said. For Mom and Dad. There it was. Reputation. Image. Control the narrative. You think I care about that right now? I asked. Emily whispered. Please. I looked at both of them. And for the first time, I saw something clearly. They were aligned. Not against me. With each other. And I was the obstacle. Get out, I said to Ryan again. This time, my voice wasn't calm. He hesitated, then walked past me and out the door. Emily stayed. I need time, she said. You've had 5 months. That's not what I mean. What do you mean? She hesitated. I don't know what I want. I nodded slowly. Then I'll decide for you. She stared at me. I'm not living in a house where my wife is choosing between me and my brother. Her voice cracked. You're being cold. No, I said. I'm being clear. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell my parents yet. I wanted to control one thing in this mess. Just one. That night, Emily slept upstairs with Caleb. I stayed on the couch again. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Not Ryan. My mother. Ryan told us you're upset. Call us in the morning. Let's handle this maturely. I stared at the message. Ryan told them I was upset. Not that he betrayed me. Not that he was in my house with my wife. Just that I was upset. I turned the phone face down. And as I lay there in the dark, I realized something that made my chest feel tight. This wasn't just an affair. It was a shift. Lines had been crossed. And I had no idea how far this was about to go once my parents decided to step in. I didn't call my parents the next morning. I already knew how that conversation would go. Ryan would frame it like a misunderstanding. Emily would be confused. I would be emotional. And somehow, I'd end up being the one asked to calm down. Instead, I met with the lawyer. Her name was Patricia Wells. Late 50s. Sharp eyes. No nonsense. She listened without interrupting while I laid everything out. The monitor. The timeline. The confrontation. When I finished, she folded her hands. "Are you certain you want to proceed?" she asked. "Yes." "Reconciliation isn't on the table?" "No." She nodded once. "Do you suspect the relationship is ongoing?" "Yes." She didn't flinch. Then we moved quickly. There was something steady about her tone that grounded me. No drama. No moral judgment. Just process. "Protect your finances immediately," she said. "Open a separate account if you haven't already. Document everything. And do not engage in emotional confrontations." That last part almost made me smile. Too late for that. When I got home, Emily was sitting at the kitchen table. Caleb was down for a nap. She looked up when I walked in. "Where were you?" "With a lawyer." Her face went still. "You're serious?" "Yes." She shook her head slowly. "You're not even giving this space to breathe." "It's been breathing for 5 months," I said. "That's not fair." "I'm past fair." She stood up. "So that's it. You just erase 8 years." I met her eyes. "You started that." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Ryan said you'd react like this." I felt something shift in my chest. "Oh, he did." She hesitated. "You've talked about this?" I said quietly. "No," she said too quickly. "Not like that." "How exactly?" Silence. I leaned back against the counter. "Were you planning to leave?" She looked away. "I don't know. You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Her voice cracked for the first time that day. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "I didn't wake up one morning and decide to fall for him." "But you did." She didn't argue that. I nodded slowly. "Then I'm making it easier." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Easier for who?" "For everyone." That afternoon, my parents showed up unannounced. Of course they did. My dad knocked once and opened the door before I could answer. My mom walked in behind him, tight smile in place. Ryan wasn't with them. That surprised me. "Callan," my mom said gently, like she was entering a hospital room. I didn't offer them seats. "You should have called," I said. "We tried," my dad replied. "You didn't answer." "I was busy." My mom glanced at Emily, who was standing near the stairs. "Sweetheart," she said to her softly, "why don't you go upstairs for a minute?" Emily hesitated, then nodded. That told me something else. They'd already spoken to her. Once she was out of earshot, my mom turned to me. "Ryan made a mistake." There it was. I waited. "But blowing up your marriage over this." I laughed, short and sharp. "Over this?" My dad's jaw tightened. "Lower your voice. It's my house." My mom stepped closer. "We're not saying what he did was right. But these things happen." I stared at her. "In what world?" I asked quietly. She sighed. "Affairs happen. People get confused. Marriage takes work. Ryan isn't part of my marriage." "That's not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" My dad finally spoke. "We mean that divorcing Emily will destroy this family." I felt something go cold inside me. "He already did that." "Don't be dramatic," my mom said quickly. I looked at her slowly. "You're protecting him." She didn't deny it. "We're protecting all of you." "No," I said. "You're protecting him." Silence. My dad crossed his arms. "You've always been stubborn." I almost smiled at that. "And Ryan's always been what?" "Impulsive? Sensitive." My mom's eyes flashed. "He feels deeply." "So do I." "That's not what I meant." I stepped closer to them. "He betrayed me." "And he's ashamed," she said quickly. "Is he?" "He's devastated." "About what?" I asked. "Getting caught." My dad's voice hardened. "That's enough." I shook my head. "No. What's enough is you walking into my house and asking me to swallow this for the sake of family." My mom's voice softened again. "Callan, think about Caleb." That was the first time his name had come up. "You think I'm not?" I asked quietly. "Divorce will hurt him. Living in this won't." She hesitated. "Children need stability," she said. "So do husbands." My dad stepped forward. "You don't throw away a marriage over one mistake." "One mistake," I repeated. "You're acting like he murdered someone." I stared at him. "He slept with my wife." "And you're still breathing," my dad said flatly. The room went silent. I felt something break loose inside my chest. Not explosive, just final. "Get out," I said. My mom blinked. Callan, get out of my house. My dad looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw my face. And he didn't. They left without another word. When the door shut, the house felt different. Quieter. Emily came down slowly. What did they say? She asked. That this is a mistake. She swallowed. And I told them to leave. Her eyes flickered with something I couldn't read. Fear. Relief. Regret. Maybe all three. You're pushing everyone away, she said softly. I looked at her. No, I said. I'm stepping back. She crossed her arms again. Ryan thinks. I don't care what Ryan thinks. She exhaled sharply. You're making him the villain. He did that himself. That's not fair. I stared at her. You're still protecting him. She didn't answer. That silence said more than any argument. That night, I moved into the guest room. Not because she asked. Because I needed distance. Around 2 a.m., I heard her footsteps outside the door. She didn't knock. She just stood there. I could feel it. Finally, she spoke through the door. I never meant to hurt you. I stared at the ceiling. I know, I said quietly. And that was the truth. She hadn't meant to. She just hadn't cared enough not to. Her footsteps faded. I lay there in the dark, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed once more. A message from Ryan. You're tearing everything apart. This doesn't have to be a war. I read it twice. Then I typed back 3 words. It already is. And as I hit send, I realized something that settled deep in my gut. They still thought this was about emotion. About pride. About ego. They didn't understand yet. This wasn't a reaction. It was a decision. And I was just getting started. The divorce papers were served 3 days later. I wasn't home when it happened. Patricia had advised me to let a process server handle it. Less emotional contamination, she'd said. Emily called me 20 minutes after. You had me served? She asked. Yes. You couldn't even hand them to me yourself? I didn't trust the conversation. Silence. Then, softer. You're humiliating me. I almost laughed. I heard you kiss my brother through a baby monitor in our son's room. She inhaled sharply. I'm not the one who did that. She hung up. That afternoon, Ryan showed up again. This time, he didn't walk in. He knocked. I opened the door, but didn't invite him inside. He looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes. Hair unkempt. You're going too far, he said immediately. I'm filing for divorce, I replied. That's not too far. That's logical. You're trying to punish us. I'm trying to protect myself. He shook his head. You're blowing up Caleb's life over pride. That word again. Pride. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You want to talk about Caleb? I asked quietly. You stood in his room. Ryan's jaw tightened. You think this is easy for me? He shot back. I didn't plan to fall for her. I stared at him. You don't get to romanticize this. His eyes flashed. You were never there, Callan. There it was. The justification. I was working. You were absent. I was present enough. For bills, he snapped. Not for her. I felt a strange calm wash over me. You've been rehearsing that line, haven't you? He didn't answer. You've built this whole story in your head, I continued. I'm the distant husband. You're the emotional rescuer. That's not what this is. It's exactly what this is. He ran a hand over his face. We didn't mean for it to get serious. But it did. He looked at me then, something almost desperate in his expression. She loves you too. I held his gaze. That's the problem. He exhaled sharply. So what's the plan? You take half the house, split custody, and we all pretend this never happened. I tilted my head slightly. We? He faltered. You're assuming she ends up with you. He didn't respond. That silence was louder than anything. You think she'll just slide into your place? I asked. Family dinners go back to normal? Don't be dramatic. I'm not. I'm being realistic. His face hardened. You've always looked down on me. That almost surprised me. This isn't about that. It is, he said. You think you're better. More stable. More responsible. I thought I was. He flinched. I didn't raise my voice. You didn't just sleep with my wife, I said quietly. You tried to replace me. He stepped back slightly. That's not true. You stood in my house and decided you belonged there. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. I stepped closer. You didn't just betray me, I said. You competed with me. His face went pale. You're twisting this. No, I said. I'm finally seeing it clearly. For years, Ryan had been the charming one, the spontaneous one, the one who made people laugh at holidays while I carved the turkey and handled the bills. I never saw him as competition. He did. Is that what this was? I asked. Winning. His voice came out low. I love her. I nodded slowly. And she might love you. That seemed to shock him. But that doesn't make you innocent. He didn't answer. And it doesn't make me obligated to stay. I turned to go back inside. You're going to regret this, he called after me. I paused at the door. No, I said. I'm going to survive it. Inside, Emily was standing in the hallway. She'd heard enough. You didn't have to say all that, she said quietly. I wasn't talking to you. Her eyes flashed. You're trying to make him the villain so you don't have to look at yourself. I stared at her. What exactly am I supposed to look at? The distance, she said. The silence. The way we stopped touching. You could have talked to me. I tried. When? She hesitated. That was the answer again. You didn't try, I said softly. You vented to him. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't plan to fall in love. Stop saying that like it excuses anything. She looked exhausted. So that's it, she asked. You hate me now? I thought about that. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. That seemed to confuse her. I just don't trust you. That hurt her more. The next week was paperwork, asset division, custody discussions. Patricia was efficient. Emily was quiet. Ryan disappeared. That was interesting. For someone who claimed this was love, he wasn't exactly standing in the spotlight. My parents called daily. I stopped answering. Then my mother left a voicemail. You're isolating yourself, she said. This isn't healthy. I deleted it. One evening, Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table. Ryan asked me to move in, she said. I kept my expression neutral. And I said no. That surprised me. Why? She swallowed. Because I don't want to jump from one man to another. That stung more than I expected. I'm not an apartment, I said quietly. That's not what I meant. I leaned back in my chair. Then what do you mean? She looked at her hands. I don't know what's real anymore. There it was again. Confusion. Uncertainty. But she'd been certain enough to sneak around for months. I'm focusing on Caleb, I said. She nodded. So am I. Silence stretched between us. Do you still love me? She asked suddenly. That question hung in the air. I thought about the nights we stayed up talking. The way she looked in the hospital holding Caleb for the first time. The quiet mornings with coffee and no words. I don't know, I said honestly. That seemed to devastate her. But it was the truth. Because love without trust feels different. It feels hollow. A few days later, Ryan sent one last message. She's confused. Don't push her into something she'll regret. I stared at it. Then I typed back. She made her choices. He didn't respond. And as the court date approached, something strange happened. The chaos quieted. The shouting stopped. The blame softened into exhaustion. But underneath it all, something else was building. Not anger. Not revenge. Something colder. Because I was starting to realize that this wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about redefining every relationship in my life. And once the papers were signed, there would be no going back. Not for her. Not for Ryan. Not for my parents. And not for me. The divorce was finalized on a gray Tuesday morning. No shouting. No dramatic speeches. Just paperwork and signatures. Emily sat across from me at the long wooden table in the courthouse conference room. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Her hair pulled back the way she wore it when she didn't want attention. When the judge confirmed the terms, she nodded quietly. I didn't look at her. Joint custody. Sell the house. Split the equity. Standard arrangement. 8 years reduced to bullet points. When we stepped outside, the air felt colder than it should have. She stopped me before I reached my car. Callan. I paused, but didn't turn fully toward her. I never wanted this to end like this, she said. I looked at her then. It didn't. She swallowed. That's not what I meant. I know. We stood there for a long second. Ryan and I aren't together, she said finally. That didn't surprise me. Oh, that's it, she asked. What do you want me to say? She shook her head slowly. Nothing, I guess. There was no anger in her voice anymore. Just emptiness. I hope you figure out what you're looking for, I said. And I meant it. She almost smiled. You were always steady, she said. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't answer. Because steady isn't exciting. Steady doesn't whisper in the dark. Steady doesn't feel like escape. But steady builds things. And I was done apologizing for that. Ryan tried calling me that night. I let it ring. Then he texted. We need to clear the air. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. There's nothing left to clear. A minute later. You're cutting me out over a woman who isn't even with me. I read that twice. That sentence told me everything. Still minimizing. Still shifting. I typed slowly. I'm cutting you out because you crossed a line you can't uncross. He didn't respond after that. And for the first time since this started, I felt calm. Not numb. Not angry. Just clear. My parents didn't take it well. My mom cried when she found out the divorce was final. "You could have worked through it," she said over the phone. "People survive worse." "Maybe," I replied. "But not me." My dad was quieter. Disappointed. Like I'd failed some invisible test of endurance. "Family matters," he said. "I agree," I told him. He didn't like that answer. Visits became awkward after that. If Ryan was coming over, I didn't. If I was there, he wasn't. My mother tried to orchestrate peace like we were children fighting over a toy. I didn't participate. You don't rebuild trust with forced dinners. You rebuild it with accountability. And no one had offered that. The house sold 3 months later. Watching strangers walk through it during showings was strange. They commented on the hardwood floors, the open kitchen, the cozy nursery. I stood in Caleb's old room once before closing the door for the last time. That was where I'd heard it. The whisper, the kiss, the beginning of the end. But standing there, I didn't feel rage anymore. Just distance. I moved into a smaller place across town. 2 bedrooms. Clean. Quiet. Mine. Caleb adjusted faster than I expected. Kids are resilient when the adults are honest. I didn't poison him against his mother. I didn't mention Ryan. I just showed up. Every pickup. Every bedtime. Every preschool recital. Steady. Months passed. Emily found her own apartment. We learned how to talk again, but only about Caleb. Neutral ground. No history. No late-night conversations. Just logistics. One evening during a custody exchange, she lingered by the door. "I started therapy," she said. I nodded. "That's good." She looked at me like she wanted something more. I didn't offer it. Because healing isn't a shared project anymore. It's individual. Ryan, from what I heard, moved out of town. New job. New circle. Fresh start. He never apologized. Not really. He apologized for how it happened, never for what he did. There's a difference. And I learned to recognize it. A year after the divorce, I was sitting on my balcony while Caleb napped inside. Sun setting. City quiet. My phone buzzed. A message from my mom. "I miss how things used to be." I stared at it for a while. Then I typed. "So do I." Because that was true. I missed the version of my life where loyalty meant something simple. Where my brother was just my brother. Where my wife was just my wife. But missing something doesn't mean you accept less than you deserve. I've thought a lot about that night. About the monitor. About how clear everything sounded through that tiny speaker. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't checked it. If I'd trusted blindly. Maybe it would have dragged on longer. Maybe I'd still be in that house. Smiling at family dinners. Unaware. And that thought chills me more than the betrayal ever did. Because ignorance isn't peace. It's just delayed pain. I don't hate Emily. I don't hate Ryan. What they did says more about them than it does about me. What I chose after says everything about me. I chose clarity over comfort. Boundaries over image. Truth over pretending. My life isn't ruined. It's different. Quieter. Cleaner. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is still and the only sound is the hum of the refrigerator, I think about how close I came to staying. To swallowing it. To keeping the family intact. And I'm grateful I didn't. Because the worst part of betrayal isn't the moment you catch it. It's the version of yourself you become if you accept it. And I refuse to become that man.